I just wish that they would invest in Chinese talent and actually try and, stick with the identity of what Tyloo is. This should have been a legacy brand where they have players who have played for them in the past be involved in the management or be involved in coaching and things like that. And then they pick up so much of the Chinese talent that's right there waiting to be picked up, and then continue this rivalry with Rare Atom. But, it's just a joke at this point.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 42 of Geographically Challenged. It's been a little while, so let's jump straight into it. A little bit of a shake-up this time around. Bleh, once again, not available, so we've got Pilski back as usual, and Ne0Kai coming through all the way from the UK to help us out this time. You've been doing a bit of the ESL Challenger stuff, so I feel like you're almost more up-to-date with Asian CS than we are.
I gotta say, yeah, I've become a bit of it seems like a bit of a staple with a lot of the Asian stuff. I do all the qualifiers, I do the Challenger League, so I feel like well, at the very least, from the EU side, I know what I'm talking about when it comes towards Asian team. So, yeah, I feel like at the very least, I know what's going on for the most part.
All right, well, hopefully you've got some good insights. We've got a lot to talk about. I mean, there's been a lot of roster changes, and I think particularly the Tyloo and Mongolz changes are going to be the ones that most people are interested in hearing about. We'll talk a little bit about ESL Challenger Season 45 as well, which, as I've said, you were covering. Maybe touch on Grayhound as well and how they've been going. And, a couple of the other things that are going on around the ANZ scene as well. But before we jump into that, I know it's been, like a little while since we did the last episode. So I kind of just wanted to catch up. And I mean, obviously we don't talk all the time, Neo. So, nice to sort of chat with you for a little bit about, some of the other things that are going on in the Counter-Strike world. Obviously, we just had the major, the last Counter-Strike Global Offensive Major, as everyone's calling it. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, guys, because obviously, it feels like we're kind of exiting one era of CS and moving into another era. And, maybe as the guest and someone that also attended the major, Ne0Kai, as well, you can kick us off. What were your thoughts on the last major, or what were your thoughts on the Blast major?
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, obviously, from working the RMR, already pretty excited. I remember, I obviously didn't expect to work the RMR for EU, so I bought tickets on the initial kind of pre-sale, so I get kind of category 1, like the best tickets you can get, apart from the VIP ones, which are incredibly expensive. So I get category 1, right on the floor, and yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was I've been to Stockholm, and that was my second major I've been to, and I kind of got sucked into the whole last CS:GO major. It's going to be sick. I've got to go for it, kind of thing. And it was. I got to say, I enjoyed kind of every part of it. Like the benefits you got just by sitting where we were sitting. Like there was a lounge that we got to go into that allowed you to kind of mingle with players and talent and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. So I got to meet some of the big shots. But also got to you casually have kind of Jax and Body and Kenny S playing 1.5 like while you're getting a drink and shit like that. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think obviously in the stadium as well. I feel like it didn't really catch as much on the stream because I went back and watched a few games, but the crowd noise was just incredible. Like it was louder than I've ever really experienced it. It was like, I've been to Premier League football games and it was like that kind of level in the stadium because the Vitality fans, the Golden Hornets, they were incredible. So when they were playing, they were ridiculous. I mean, not even when they weren't playing, when Game Leader were playing in their kind of quarters and semis, they were supporting Kios. Like whoever they were playing, even if they weren't playing, they were supporting, which is good, obviously, because we kind of saw the Rio major. If Fury weren't playing, that crowd was fucking dead. So this wasn't the case. Every game was banging. The Golden Hornets, they were on it, so they made everything sick. And my seats were like right in front of them, so I got kind of the best of it. Right next to me, got the Golden Hornets, but then got kind of right in front of the stage. So yeah, I mean, from being in there in person, it was incredible. I got to say, I think Blast did a really good job. All the stuff they did, which wasn't shown on stream as well, was really good. Like they had like an hour before the show would start, they bring in like a professional DJ who I didn't know anything about, but I was speaking to someone and apparently he's like mega famous in France, like this big DJ who came in. He brought his mate, who was also apparently a really famous like rapper, basically. So everyone got really hyped when he came on, but they were pretty cool. They did like a half-an-hour DJ set to kind of warm you up. And then Banks, and I think his name's CMD, he's like the French host, dude.
I'm not sure. The guy who lost his voice, is that guy?
Yeah,
oh
that guy.
My God,
dude,
did you see that clip, Pilski?
He was going
shit.
for it, bless him.
Oh, dude, it was so funny. He's like, they were doing like the show match, right? Were you there for this? Holy cow, man. They're doing the show match and he's like, this is Team France. And like, you can just hear his voice just absolutely fucking cannot do it. I don't know why they've decided to let him do it. That was really like pain.
Day like 1, 2, and 3, my boy was going for it. Like he,
sure.
like I can see how he lost it because like he was really riling up the Vitality fans. So I can see how he lost it. But yeah, that poor bloke. They would come on before and they'd bring on like every day, like someone new, whether it was Kenny S or Jax or Shocks, and they would do like 1v1s people in the crowd. And it was always kind of a bit of a laugh because the Vitality fans, they were there from like the minute the doors opened. So you got kind of like a really good vibe in there. I think like a lot of stuff that wasn't shown on stream was really good. The only thing I would say I didn't like about the major was the fact that in the arena we didn't get any of the desk. And I feel like that for me was kind of like, I think it's always just good to get context going towards the game. I remember Stockholm, we had the desk so we could kind of know what's going on. That was the only thing I would say, like, I wish they improved. Was like in the arena. There was
English commentary in the arena, but what, French desk or?
No, like the English desk, they were off like to the left-hand side, but we just never really got to like hear it. They never put it on the screen or anything. Like when it was happening, they would just have like, blast kind of music, like their break music would just play. That's it, like, and nothing. Yeah. So I kind of wish they routed that to the arena, and then it would have been perfect.
I mean, I will say I actually don't mind the blast break music of all the break musics. I actually don't mind it. So anyway, look, Pilski, obviously a very different experience for us. I don't know. You sort of told me you were watching a little bit. I would say more of this major than many of the previous ones. Even though like all the time zones are fucked for us, I was like, this is going to be the last CS one. I'll just fucking commit. And I think the grand final started at like 2 or 3 a.m. or something like that for us. So, sitting in my bedroom, sitting right here at this PC, watching it, and you're obviously over there in the arena. It's just such a different... that's why I wanted to have this like little... See what your experience was like versus what our experience was like. But I don't know. I didn't mind it. I thought it was all right. Pilski, like as far as the online viewership was concerned, I thought it was actually more enjoyable than watching Rio, that's for sure. And obviously there's a few reasons that Neo's already mentioned about the crowd and such like that. I actually thought it was a pretty good viewing experience, even though some of the games ended up being a bit weird. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it kind of was doubly reinforced that I stay up and watch the games because my partner went to the US, so there was no one to like disturb with my like loud Counter-Strike commentary in bed. So that kind of fed into staying up all night and watching the games. I think in terms of quality of the games, like obviously at least for me, I feel like upsets often lead to like a weaker tournament, and I think you really saw that in the grand final where it's like one team just didn't have really the experience to be competitive, which was a bit of a shame. I really subscribe to the theory that some of the grand final games and some of the better games were like earlier in the tournament. So I'm really hoping they like go and especially heading into CS2, like they have a really hard look at like the major format and kind of change some stuff up because I'm pretty sick of it, to be honest. But I felt like Blast. The thing I like about Blast in particular is it kind of reminds me of like the GSL StarCraft days in a way where they do some like new and intuitive stuff with the production that kind of makes you think about what things are good for the show. And I feel like they focus more on like creating at least, well, look, the RMRs was another story, but at least at the major itself, they focus on like really trying to create an atmosphere. I think the break music is a perfect example of that. Like at least the on-stream break music being like really chill before you like go back into the game creates for a really good contrast. And I think like they have a better understanding than other TOs of like building that like, I wouldn't say like intensity, but almost like ebb and flow in the broadcast. And I think that's really important and something that gets overlooked or just not done well by other TOs where everything is just hype all the time and there's no like build up and like then kind of chill moments in between.
Yeah, look, overall can't complain too much. Happy with it as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, as far as the final major is, I thought it was good. But like it's hard to say because like obviously when I watched it, it's such a fucking different experience to people who were there or who were on the right time zone or whatever, because it's just like
apparently crowd mics were bad was what I heard. Like I heard like I have friends of mine saying like, oh, it sounds like it's not that loud. And I was like, it is fucking loud in here. Like it is like to the point where like at times I'd be sitting next to my friends and I couldn't speak to them. Like that's how loud it was. So like I felt like when I watched the stream or like the trumpet guy, obviously, he became like very, very famous, right? But he in the arena was like crazy loud. But I felt like I watched times on the stream and it was like you kind of just vaguely hear him in the distance. But like those sort of small things.
I think the crowd mics were pretty decent this event, at least for the games that I watched. Yeah, I was happy with it.
It was,
I don't know about
Also,
you,
UK
Jordan.
team did well, so I was loving life.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well.
Yeah.
I was literally watching that. I was like, fuck, man. Who was it? It was ITB and
Vitality.
no, but
Final.
what was the matchup where there was like a UK player versus ITB?
Oh, Mezzi with Fnatic.
Yeah, and it was like...
And the coach Cater. Yeah.
I was like, imagine, this is literally like if G2 would verse Grayhound, right? It's either JKS wins or fucking Grayhound wins. It's like, I was like, man, if I was English right now, I'd be fucking loving life. But obviously...
That's it. I was loving it. It was a qualification game. So I was like, right,
Exactly.
either Mezzi, who is the king of UKCS, like everyone bows down to him, the absolute god, right? Like he's untouchable, or a UK team make it through. It's literally a win-win. Like go make it through the champion stage. And then when the fact that it was a UK team made it through, that was even better. Because like, especially for me, like Cypher and Volt, I've kind of my casting careers rose as their playing careers rose. So it's been like, I've known like Cypher since like, I've known of Cypher, I guess, since like 2017. I've known him since like maybe 2019, maybe. So like to see him now go from just being like some guy pugging in UKCS, just like playing. I mean, I think I first started watching him when he was playing for a team called Real Betis, like the football team. Just some shitty like ESEA Inters team, I think. And now to see him like champion stage at major means a lot. Like Volt as well. Like, I've known Volt from his Fnatic Rising days when he first got picked up. I interviewed him straight away because I was like, this guy's like pretty good. Like I think I can see him doing well now. He's top 8 at a major. So shit like that, like for me, is sick. And obviously like Thomas as well. Like Thomas has like been in and out of the UK series. It was always going to be like plus Thomas, minus Thomas for the longest time. Like rejected by the scene, goes to NA, nothing happens in NA, comes back, and then we don't really see much of him. Now top 8 major, so he's finally like done something. So for us, it was sick. And we had this like this UK corner opposite the Vitality Golden Hornets, which is like, you know, it's like 100 of us compared to like 4,000 or 5,000 of them. But it was a good laugh. It was good fun.
All right. Well, I mean, hopefully, you know, we'll be able to taste some of that success one day as well for AUCS. But look, the people aren't here to talk or to hear us talk about the major or UKCS or global CS or anything like that. This is an Asian CS podcast, Asia and ANZ. All falls under the same umbrella. So let's get into the topics today that we wanted to sort of touch on. And there's quite a few interesting roster changes going on in Asia at the moment. So let's start with Tyloo. That's the less recent one. We'll talk about the Mongols here as well. But Tyloo have basically revamped their entire roster. So the question I'm going to ask for both of you guys here today is, has Tyloo just completely lost the plot? Because it really looks like on paper they've just gone, we're going to fucking throw everything out the window and rebuild this from the ground up and see what happens. So just to lay the groundwork, lay the footing, the team is now slowly Freeman. So both of those players have already been on Tyloo or were previously on that previous roster, which is only the case for Freeman. Score, Emmy, and Roga, and obviously Letney maintained as the coach as well. So they've removed Attacker, Summer, DANK1NG, and Aristo. And obviously, you know, removing Attacker and Summer in particular is a really big deal because these are two names that have been with Tyloo for a very long time. And DANK1NG's been around there for a while now and has been quite a... I don't know if I would say legendary player necessarily in the Chinese scene, but just in terms of his input into the scene, he's definitely been one of the key figures from that roster, especially. And I think Aristo, like whatever, like no one really gives a shit. Aristo was there for, you know, not a very long time. Tyloo never really were a very good team when Aristo was on the roster, so I don't think anyone necessarily cares too much about that. But losing Attacker and Summer, I think, is a big deal in terms of like the legacy of Tyloo, and dropping DANK1NG, who has debatably been one of the better AWPers in the Asia region for a long time, basically his entire career with Tyloo, is a bit of a surprise to me. But with that said, when I look at the results that Tyloo have been having, I think it's not a huge surprise to see them make roster changes at this point. I mean, obviously, they tried to qualify for the major. That hasn't worked out. Now's kind of the perfect time to be making changes if you want to be looking forward into the future. And look, let's be real. For a team like Tyloo, which is, you know, kind of used to dominating Asian Counter-Strike and being the representative from the Asian region, those kinds of results that Tyloo have been getting, and basically they're not even in the discussion for a lot of these like grand finals or qualification spots, are basically not good enough. So I can see why they've made those roster changes, or I can see why they've made roster changes, but as to why they've made the roster changes that we've actually seen, I mean, let's give this one to you again, Neo, to kick things off. What are your thoughts? Because I saw this I saw the rumors and stuff, and I was like, there's no fucking way. Like, they've completely removed the identity of being a Chinese team now, and they are an international team.
Yeah, I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. These changes are fucking weird, right? These, when I saw it, I was like, what are they cooking? But at the same time, right, there's kind of there's two sides, right? You got the kind of the first side of like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, what is this team? How is it going to work, right? Obviously, a large part of it is got to be coming from that Letney influence. So you look at that and you're thinking, okay, right, he's brought in the likes of Emmy and Roger. I think, I don't know, for me, I really feel like this is such a wild change to be making. Emmy and Roger coming through. Obviously, they've had their moments of being actually decent players, but especially Emmy, like, I think he's way past it. I don't think he's a good player anymore. Like, personally, I know, having seen him, I think what was in before? He was in Partizan, right, before this, and Jesus, like, he's not a good player, unfortunately. I don't think he has it left in him. I think he would actually be a really good coach. I think he's pretty old now. He's got to be towards his 30s at least. He's been around for a long time. But yeah, I think as a player, he's just not there anymore. Having seen him in Partizan doing it, he was, they would compete pretty consistently within EU Challenger League and EU qualifiers and whatnot. He was most definitely the worst player on that Partizan team by like quite a long shot. Like, him going like neutral, not even like positive, him going neutral was like a big deal. Like, that's how bad it was. It became like a bit of a meme where it was like, can this guy even get a positive KD? That's where we were getting towards. But yeah, I think these changes are weird, but at the same time, you got kind of the other side of the story where Tyloo were doing nothing, like, spot on. They were never involved in the conversation, even in the very few times they have been in Challenger League recently, which has not been a lot because they constantly either go towards Europe, so they can't play, or they just drop out. They've not been competing. They've been getting slapped around. I know in the qualifiers as well, they've been getting dominated. They're not qualifying to lands. They're not even, entering that conversation. So I feel like making a change is definitely the right thing. It's just a case of, were these the right changes? I don't know, because now I'm assuming the common in English, it's going to be very janky. I'm assuming Emmy and Roger are then going to move over. I don't really know how they're going to do this, basically. Because
I think they already have
wanted to play. They have. So they have moved to
Hangzhou, I think, is where their base is.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, fair play. Because I know obviously Tyloo at times they've just come and stayed in Europe, and they're like boot camped in Serbia, the relog facilities, and just like tried to learn kind of European style CS and scrim with European teams, which I think is a good thing. Limvision did it way back in the COVID times, and they beat G2, Starry dropping an ace, all the good stuff. So they, I think that's a good thing. But they're basically trying to lean as heavily as they can in towards the European influence in Asian Counter-Strike, which I can understand because like it's worked for some teams. Mongols are a good example of it. They play, some of their set strategies are very kind of European based, or have been, obviously now with the changes, which we'll get to at some point. Yeah, but I don't know. These changes feel weird. I think they needed to make the changes, but were these the right ones? I think DANK1NG losing him is that for me is a massive loss. I mean, he was without a shadow of doubt one of the best players, not only kind of in this team, or was the best player in this team, but also one of the most impactful in the region. It always kind of felt like he was carrying the shit show, basically. I think losing Aristo is probably fair enough. They tried to take a gamble, right? They tried to find their version of Jam Young or Starry, some youngster who was like uber talented, and unfortunately Aristo never lived up to it. But yeah, personally, I don't really like the changes. I think it's very weird. I think Roger's talented. He's pretty young, so there's maybe a future there. He has that connection with Letney. But I feel like if you're going to make changes and you're going to go European, there is plenty better players you can find than Emmy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Pilski, what's your take? Because, I think we've kind of gone around the Tyloo discussion for a long time now. Like even the original Tyloo roster, and then there was like the Bented extra at Tyloo roster, then there was the departure of Bented and what that meant for the team, and then they bring in Zeta and blah 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 and this and that and all that. So we've gone through a lot of these kinds of discussions before with regard to Tyloo, but I don't think, for me, I've ever really seen such a drastic change in, I don't know what I would call it, maybe the ethos of the team. Like the team has always been Chinese core plus maybe one or two international players, but they've still very much been like, okay, we're kind of a Chinese team. Now it's just like, we're going to throw all of that out the window and see if we can build something from the ground up. And what Neo's mentioned there as well is that not only does that change them now from being a Chinese team, it also changes them from being a Chinese-speaking team into presumably an English-speaking team, where you've got, I think now, 4 or 5 nationalities basically represented. And all of them are not native English-speaking nationalities coming together to play CS in China, in a Chinese team, in the Asian Counter-Strike region, and speak English. And the one thing I'll say as well, before I give you the mic, Pilski, is Does this remind you a little bit of the first thing that came to my head was this reminds me a little bit of that Smooya Snappy to Tiger rumor that we heard. And then I was like, you know what?
Good old days.
Actually, maybe not, because I feel like Smooya and Snappy were like big names. And it was kind of like, holy shit, these guys coming across. What this actually almost reminds me a little bit more of is like Vadim and Koshak playing in Invictus at that period in time. But even then, Invictus was still very much like, okay, a Chinese team with a couple of Russian players. Now this is just like, we're trying our hand at building an international roster. So is Tyloo the kind of team or the kind of org that can pull that off, I wonder? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a fucking travesty, mate. Honestly, like I feel like this is like a coach getting like free reign over the entire team and its identity, and then kind of doing what he wants and picking up his mates almost, or people that he thinks are good. Yeah. And like, fair enough, that's his opinion, but like Tyloo has one Chinese player on it, so like it's not even really the same team anymore. They lost their best player. I'm just not really sure. And you know, even the changes before this were pretty bad, if you ask me. You know, they're not advent. They can't scout talent like he can, you know, in China. So I think, you know, a lot of the decisions that they made in terms of picking up players have been pretty mid in the last little bit. And I think that they should have gone the same route that they went a while ago, back like during the COVID era, when they actually had a good run, which is picking up players from some of the other Chinese teams. Like they picked up 2 eHome players and that went really well for them. That's when they found DANK1NG and Slowly, and they mixed them with the 3 players who have got a lot of experience. They need to do the same thing again. They should have gone full Chinese. They should have gotten players from Lin Vision, or they should have gotten players from one of the other teams that are sitting below the top. You know, you got plenty of teams, you got plenty of talent in China. That's never been the issue. But I feel like now it's almost been a little bit of a missed opportunity. Like you even got Wings Up sitting right there. You got so many players who have looked up to Tyloo for such a long time, who, I mean, now their teams are better than Tyloo, so it's almost difficult to attract them. And it almost makes you question why Tyloo can't pick up those players anymore. Like, what's wrong with the organization? And are they not willing to spend any money? And then, well, you know, they're getting players from Europe. So maybe that doesn't seem like an issue. You know, you should be able to pick up Chinese players. I just don't understand what's going on. And I think that, like, this is just, it's not even those examples that you gave. Like, this is literally like this reminds me of like the cynical, like, Middle Eastern spot at the Asia RMR, where you just get like a couple of random European players and you try and qualify for shit with like a very mediocre team. And you know that once you go to the major, you're going to get banged anyway. So like, I just wish that they would invest in Chinese talent and actually try and, you know, stick with the identity of what Tyloo is. You know, this should have been a legacy brand where they have players who have played for them in the past be involved in the management or be involved in coaching and things like that. And then they pick up so much of the Chinese talent that's right there waiting to be picked up, you know, and then continue this rivalry with Rare Atom. But, you know, it's just a joke at this point.
I have to mention as well, just from the Asian region, especially from this season, pardon me, a couple of teams really came through from the China region who are like unreal in my eyes. I think it was like, first of all, Chaoran Gaming, who I'd never casted before, who had a couple of people on there who were really farming. They went like deep three maps against Rare Atom, and I honestly thought they were going to beat them in like the first round of playoffs. And then there was what they were called, New Happy. Again, never cast them before this season, but 2 guys, Spine and Tiger, were just unreal. So like, if you're looking at the region, you know, Wings Up in their own, Chowking, Gas Flying, all have had their moments of being kind of unreal. But like, there's a couple of these really smaller teams who they definitely could have poached for pretty cheap, right? I definitely think they could have got them on a not that expensive compared to shipping out European guys. They could have got and kept the identity of a Chinese team. But yeah, I think probably the best way of putting it is the way Pilski put it. It kind of feels like a coach has got too much control. And that's why I think there always should be a distinction between a coach and a general manager. General managers should be making the decisions about, you know, buying players and investing in the team, and a coach should be the one making, you know, difference in the server.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, because I know that they do have some management and they have some managers. Jack, who's been with Tyloo for a while, you know, we were interviewing him even back in the COVID period when we were doing all those online shows, and he was still with them because I saw him at the airport in Mongolia coming back home from the RMR. So I know that he's, or I mean, maybe since then things have changed, but I assume he's still with the team at that point. I think one of the things that we haven't really touched on with this change, and probably what I feel like is a big talking point, of course, is score. Like we've obviously focused on the international aspects of it and stuff like that, but obviously everyone was looking at when Score left the Mongols. What the fuck happened there? Was he removed? Did he leave? Did he have better offers? Blah, 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 blah. I think the TLDR from that is ultimately he was removed for one reason or the other from the roster. From what I heard, it was clashes with the coaching staff and with the ethos of the team and whatever that may be. So he was out of the roster, not necessarily of his own volition. Like he didn't choose to leave, I don't think. And as a result of that, obviously, you know, some offers would have come through and such like that. But now he's been picked up by Tyloo. I just wonder whether, you know, for him, is that really an upgrade for an individual coming through from Asia going into Tyloo? You know, we've seen this before, and I feel like for you and I, Pilski, this is a bit of a broken record, right? I want to, you know, I want to wish Score the best, and I want to wish Tyloo the best, but I've seen so many times an international player has got brought into Tyloo and their career has like stagnated or nosedived. And, you know, I'm talking about people like Zeta, I'm talking about Xshirt, I'm talking about Bentet. Bentet is probably the outlier because he had that good period with Tyloo. Then he went overseas and played in North America, and then he came back to Tyloo, and obviously now it's kind of gone, but whatever. But you know, is Score going to be like that next hyped up Asian player that's not Chinese that gets brought into Tyloo and then gets stuck in Tyloo contract prison and is, you know, never really going to live up to the hype that we've all built up around this individual? So, you know, I mean, that's even another little sort of thing to think about. And the one little bit of knowledge that I have gathered from doing, you know, a bit of boots on the ground work and having a chat with some of the people in the Mongolian scene is that, to my understanding, someone involved in Tyloo's management is actually Mongolian. So there is like maybe a little bit of a connection there. And actually, I would say that is a little bit of a tick in the book of Score. Like, okay, at least there's someone that, you know, you can communicate with really easily, and like you probably have a better understanding than, you know, what the Korean guys would have had or what the Indonesian guys would have had with the Tyloo organization. So maybe there's something there. But if I'm in my perfect world building a team for Score to go into post Mongols, I'm not sure it's necessarily this Tyloo roster.
No. I was convinced he was going to EU. I was so convinced. You know, post Kato, he gets dropped, right? You're thinking, this guy has farmed the last like 6 months. Challenger leagues, domestic competitions, like Score was the guy. No one could compete with him, and mechanically in the server. So when he gets dropped post Kato, I'm like, right, some EU teams come through and they're just going to take him up here. Apparently, there was all the conversation about he speaks pretty good English anyway. So I was like, right, that's it for me. Like, sick. Score's going to EU. This is awesome because he deserves it. He was, in my eyes, I think he was one of the best players on that team. So when he got dropped, I was like, it can only be for good reasons. And he did the Instagram post, which I'm assuming you guys saw, where he was like, he said a post saying, I didn't want to leave, kind of thing. So then you're like, oh shit, like, you know, this is bad. But you know, he gets off one sinking ship, and you're thinking it can only go up from here, right? This is like, you know, well, obviously we'll get to that at some point. It's a dying team, right? And it's on a massively downward trend. And he gets off just before, you know, he jumps ship. And it immediately sinks, right? So you think, okay, cool. So it can only go up. And he jumps onto another, even worse situation, like an even more of a downward trend, even more kind of underwater ship here. I don't know. I think you're right in saying that this looks like it could be him getting locked into like a 2-3 year contract with Tyloo. No one's going to buy him out from this team. He's not going to be able to prove anything. I don't think this team's going to qualify for anything. He's not going to get his chance to show it on LAN. So he's going to be stuck doing like fuck all in the prime of his career, basically. Well, he's like 21, isn't he? So he's like
very young, yeah.
And this guy's in like the absolute prime of his playing career, and we could see him, just get stuck in Tyloo for 2-3 years, whatever, doing most likely fuck all. Because regardless of how good individuals are, I hate to say it, but Emmy will bring this team down. I just don't think he's a decent IGL, but he's not a good player. So you're playing 4v5 when it comes towards like the fragging department. I don't think any of them at the moment. I think the score's really good, but I don't think he can carry, you know, this team to qualifying over the likes of the way Jam Young America play for Advent, carry Advent kind of thing, or the way the likes of kind of Starry carries at times Westmelon, those kind of things. I don't really think he can do it specifically in this sense over Emmy. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, this is going to fuck him for a couple of years.
Well, I mean, he's just got so many more challenges, even on top of that, just from the language barrier as well. We've seen Tyloo try to do English comms before when they had the Indonesians or at least there was like some like English, Mandarin kind of going on there, and then Bentet translating, and then some Indonesian, whatever between him and Bentet and Exurit. But look, a bit of a weird situation. All things considered, I don't know if I necessarily have much of an opinion to make at this point, beyond the fact that I will be very surprised if this works. But I don't think we can necessarily judge until we see the results from the first.
No, I don't. I would be very surprised if they do anything. And even, it's not like they haven't had the EU coaching for a while and they haven't had a super good amount of success with it. They're not beating the other teams in China. They're not even qualifying for a lot of events. So, it's not like the success has been there. And I'm going to be real, like if Score can't carry NKT to any kind of notable results, then Score can't carry Tyloo to notable results. Like it's just not as good of a team, if you ask me.
Yeah. And actually the irony of it as well, and we'll move this into the Mongols discussion, is like this was a world where, like, I don't know if this is what I would want to see happen, but it's feasibly possible that there was a world you've got now. Think about who in the Mongolian scene is not in a team, all right? Annihilation's not on a team anymore. Cabal's not on a team anymore. Score's not on a team anymore. That's 3 out of 5 of the IHC roster that was dominating Asia already. So,
and 2 of the best players as well.
Find a couple of other Mongolian players, and maybe you've got a good Mongolian team put together there. So let's get into that discussion. Mongolian Counter-Strike shuffle once again. I understand this goes a little bit deeper than just the Mongols, but obviously we'll focus on the Mongols because in terms of the more global Asia sort of region and even internationally, they are kind of the only relevant Mongolian team. But this obviously affects Clutch Gaming, which is where one of the players has come from, and some of the other teams. There's going to be a bit of a shuffle going on there. But look, Mongols are making changes. They're making surprising changes as well, I would say, in a way. I've spoken to a couple of people from the Mongolian scene. Again, similar to in that discussion about Score on the Mongols. I wanted to sort of see what is the general consensus about these changes with the Mongolian fans. And it seems like a lot of people are shocked. So people are a little bit surprised that this has sort of come about, or maybe the way that it's come about. But first of all, I want to bring us back to July last year and talk about the Mongols / IHC as a team, and just talk about all the roster changes this team has made. This honestly feels like a team that doesn't really let its players get set in its ways or likes to... They just seem to like making a lot of changes, right? So as of last year, in July, okay, this is where it starts. 9 is replaced by Annihilation. They remove Bartak. Then 2 weeks later, they bring Bartak back. Then they remove Cabal, who's benched, and then also later removed. Then they remove Score and add Hasika. Then they remove Bartak and Annihilation and add 9, 10, and Mizzino, which is where we're at now. So it's like six different changes, which are... Sorry, 6 instances of changes, of which there's like more than 6 actual changes in 12 months. And if you look at any other team, like how many teams are making 6 different roster changes in 12 months? I'm not so sure. But anyway, this is where we're at right now. So the team is Blitz, Techno, Hasika, 910 or 910. I don't know how to say this guy's names. I've seen him around a little bit, but I think it's 910. And Mizzino. And... once again, it's just like, okay, here's another new iteration of the Mongols. Like, are we happy with that? Again, this kind of goes back to the same conversation we were having about with Tyloo, where like, okay, sure, maybe the results haven't really been there. I mean, ever since they removed Score, it's kind of like, as you've said, been a bit of a downward trend for this roster, from IHC into Mongols into where they're at now. They, for the first time in 3 RMRs, have not qualified as the first seed out of Asia. They didn't do amazingly when they went to Rio. They didn't do amazingly at the major. It seems like they have peaked now and are sort of on that downward trend. So with that in mind, I can see the argument for making roster changes. But again, were these the changes that you would have wanted to see?
I mean, I guess if I'll kick started, I just think the first initial thing for me that was really funny, 910 or 910 replacing Bartak. And for those who don't know, he's the 15-year-old younger brother of Bartak, so it's going to be a very awkward dinner in the Bartold family, have to be said. I'm assuming he was involved in some way of bringing his brother in, but at the same time, to replace him is kind of just hilarious, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, Bartak's younger brother replacing Bartak was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, again, right, you look at this, and this is kind of, it gives me shades of Tyloo, where it's like, right, we've been at one point the best in the region. Of course, Mongols much more recently. And the second we've, not been as competitive or looked a little bit shaky, we instantly like, fuck it, let's just explode the whole thing and go again. And I think that is the big thing here for me. It kind of feels like this is such a panic, right? It's like, we let go of the score because he wasn't getting on with the coaching staff or whatever. Maybe we fucked up, right? But it's only one player we have to replace. We need to bring in another guy, another very proficient rifler who can just kind of play either as a pack player very comfortably. We can set him on lurk rolls, he's fine, or we can even put him in as an entry. So a versatile rifler who's, self-sufficient. Not that hard to find when you look at the kind of the teams around in Mongolia right now, even in Challenger League. Not only Clutch Gaming, who they seem to be really good friends with, but Eruption. Those Eruption guys they're cracked. They're like those guys know how to play. Obviously, a large part of them are kind of ex-Mongols players anyway, but you look at the changes now, and they're giving like Eternal Fire run for their money. The plus and minusing players every kind of 2-3 months. Like it seems like the real core issue of this team isn't the players or isn't kind of what's happening in the server. It's management. Like, and this is always what is going to fuck up teams. It's the decisions above the team itself. They were doing fine. They were still, maybe this RMR, like you said, they didn't come out first place. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe a little bit shaky, but we've now got a massive player break coming up. We're going into CSU. The next major is 290 days away or something like that, right? We've got a lot of time to kind of get ourselves ready. Let's not do anything rash. But instead, it kind of feels like management's instantly panicked the second they've lost a little bit of control. Or, I mean, if there even is management, I don't really know how it's now working with the Mongols. Obviously, they're no longer with IHC, right? They're no longer part of the org. But I'm not sure whether there's someone making a decision above them or whether this is now actually all on their shoulders. And they're the ones like, okay, well, we're in control now. Let's just completely blow this thing up. I don't know. It feels very weird. It feels very not thought through, basically, the way I put it. And I think actually won't be for the better. I think this is a prime opportunity now for teams like Rare Atom and Limvision to actually be consistently qualifying to lands, because we've seen it very recently, especially with the likes of Rare Atom. I know even, from the multiple seasons I've been casting Challenger League, a very common theme that you see, and you see people put it on Twitter or like in HLTV or even in Twitch chat, whatever. They always call like Rare Atom land dodgers, right? Because they never quite make it to those lands. They get so close and they're like, they never make it. So I think it's actually a prime opportunity now. Obviously, we're going to see Rare Atom at Pro League and Limvision as well. We're not going to see the Mongols. So we're already seeing now this shift in dynamic at the top of the Asian scene. And I think actually, fair play, because the Mongols, I think they've absolutely fucked it. They've completely lost control of what was more or less a guaranteed spot to basically every single land going around. And these changes, even if they are for the better in the long term, we are talking the next major, because it's going to take a lot of time to get these youngsters on board, right? 910's 15, right? Like, this kid has had very minimal experience, not only as a player, just as a person. Like, the whole kind of social dynamics of a team are extremely important to being successful. I think that was the things that made at one point Mongols very good, or IHC very good, right? And now you got this 15-year-old who's had very, very little team experience. He's had bits and bobs here and there, but yeah, I don't know. I think for me, this is such a big risk and not worth a one, at least at the very moment. This just looks like a panic to me. They've shit the bed. They're like, fuck, we have to do something here and now, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, just to add a little bit more context as well, from what I've been hearing and the sort of news coming out of Mongolia is that, from what I've heard, Hastika has now also taken over IGL. So Blitz has just gone back to rifling. So you've got Blitz and Techno as the rifling core, and then I
don't mind that.
Hastika IGLing, which you could maybe see a reason why Hastika was brought in at the time. When he replaced Score, it was like, okay, if he's just directly replacing Score, then maybe that's not ideal. But if he's now been brought in as an IGL in some capacity, then you can kind of see the argument. But talk to me, Pilski, about what your thoughts are here, because again, I'm looking at this roster change and Annihilation getting removed, Bart4k getting removed. I'm a little bit surprised that that these are the changes, but then I sort of had a little bit more of a think about it, and I was like, well, okay, Techno's uncuttable because he's been their best performer recently, and he's also young, and I sort of think he's got a lot of potential. Throw that word around. Blitz is uncuttable, obviously, because he's Blitz, and at the time, my assumption was that he was IGLing as well as kind of being like almost a star player, but either way, I think you can't cut Blitz. I think you can't cut Blitz, you can't cut Techno. Hasek is only just joined the team, so it would be a bit weird to sort of just cut him straight away as well, although I'm sure that has happened in the past with no shortage of teams. So you've really only got like Annihilation and Bartak that you can potentially remove. And, you know, Annihilation's a little bit inconsistent as far as primary AWPer is concerned with the AWP. I think, statistically speaking, you look at his stats, and even when he plays overseas, like, he gets decent stats, but I have seen him miss a few sitters here and there. So is he the guy that they need, or are they looking at that and saying, all right, well, maybe we can find someone better than Annihilation? Anyway, what do you think about these changes? Are you happy to see the changes?
No, but like I think it's fucked anyway. Like after Score's gone, it's fucked anyway. Basically, is my opinion. They should have like literally just gone to Score's house and just like fucking begged him to come back. Honestly, like he should be back in the team. I agree with what Neo said. If you're going to be picking up players, you need to be picking up people from Eruption, or you need to try and get the guys from NKT. In my opinion, not go for someone who, look, to be fair, Mzinho, or however you say his name, is like 15 years old. So his officials he's played like as a 13 and a 14-year-old. I also played officials as a 13 and 14-year-old and got shit on. But you don't pick up a player who has absolutely no track record in officials. You know, you need him to actually go to a proper team and play some officials and play a LAN at least, for fuck's sake, you know, before you can like pick somebody up and bet on them. So I think that's a mistake. As for picking up 9-10 over Annihilation, I mean, I haven't even seen the guy play, but looking at his stats, it like it looks like a similar story to Annihilation almost. It's like he's like 40 bombing some maps and then he'll get like 15 kills the next map. It's like he has some good stats. He has some good maps here and there, but he seems pretty inconsistent if you look at his ratings, like across the board as an AWPer. So, look, we'll see how he goes, because at the end of the day, there's only so many AWPers in Mongolia, and like you've played with a lot of them already. Like, are you going to pick up 9 again, or like what are you going to do exactly? So, look, if you're not going to play with Annihilation, then maybe you do take a chance on somebody else with the AWP. Yeah, I'm not sold on Hastika. We already watched him play for a long time in D13. That's got to be one of those intangible things where you really believe in somebody as an IGL and you play with them a lot. But by that same token, what was wrong with how Mongols were playing before? Like, they were pretty much the team in Asia that actually had the fundamentals down and played good team Counter-Strike and actually looked like they had a good understanding of the macro. So why did you exactly need a good IGL? I'm not really sure what the answer is for that. So that's where I think you need a bit of insider info, maybe. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I think this team is fucked, and I think Score going to Tyloo is also fucked, and I think that those two things in close proximity happening is going to be a downward trend for the top couple of teams in Asia, to be honest, and I think that's going to put us into a period of either Rare Adam kind of dominating for a bit, or there's going to be like crazy parity and it's going to be a fucking mess, probably.
Grayhound, Rare Adam on top, maybe. I will just add that some of those officials that I did have a look at from Mazzino, whatever, he did play with Mara and Hastika in one of them. In W2C, which was like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, which is crazy. If he's
like 13,
if he's only
his
15
only good
now,
series that he ever played.
Was he fucking 13 playing like
he
an
was
official?
13.
Yeah.
How old's Mara? Mara's like 30 or something, isn't he? So, you know, this kid's,
I mean, I feel like they're trying to do
3 times this kid's age almost.
I feel like they're trying to do a Vexite, bro.
They are, for
honestly.
sure. They're trying
That's
to
what
like
it feels like.
Find
and when Vexite
prodigy
was coming up, we were watching his games. I was like, I don't think this guy is that good, and I was really fucking wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it again. I think this guy's probably shit, but we'll see.
Yeah, but like, also give him time, I guess.
Well, for me, I feel like there's such an innate risk of picking up such a youngster, and you can only do it if you know what you're getting, kind of thing. Like you look towards kind of youngsters that have been picked up recently, like, you know, Manetti's a prime example, right? You know what you're getting. This guy, 16, we play Academy League, season after season, he's dropping like an average rate, like a 1.3. But with Mazzino, I've never seen any of this. Like, he's playing against fairly average people regionally, right? And shitting the
good.
bed more often than not, right? So you know what you're getting there, and not good players. I don't know how they're going to expect to change him. Like, I took a look at when the article came out, like 2 days ago, whatever it is now. I yesterday took a look through some demos just because I was just a little bit, I was just curious to see what he was all about, right? He's obviously brothers with Bart4k or whatever, younger brother of Bart4k, and he's coming in, but like mechanically, he's not even there. Like, it seems like he just fundamentally doesn't understand the game that much. Yeah, obviously he's very young, so fair enough. You wouldn't. I was fucking shit at 15, but like generally speaking, like to pick him up into the premium team in the region, or meant to be the best team in the region alongside Grayhound, right? And now you've got kind of this 15-year-old who mechanically unbelievably shaky, and then like his just like knowledge of the game is rough. I remember there was times where like he would like unknowingly be like baiting people and unknowingly like get teammates killed just because like he's just not aware enough. Like, so just small things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is another thing. Maybe similar to Tyloo, we're talking about how whoever's in control of the team's decisions is now changed, because it seems like they've gone very quickly, gone from like, this is our ethos, this is our kind of, this is what makes us, Tyloo or the Mongols, and it's changed rapidly. And they're like, fuck it, right, out the window, let's do it. I think they want to make Hashtag a Rare Atom, like their version of kind of Rare Atom's Advent, right? Advent is like mechanically fucking awful. Like, he's terrible. I think I saw. Yeah, well,
Advent.
apparently,
Advent's the sharpest player in Asia. What do you mean?
Someone told me something. Apparently, like of like all time in CS:GO, he's like the lowest rated player on LAN.
I could 100% believe that. Do you know what? I could 100% believe that, because every fucking episode we come back and we're like, hey man, let's check out these Rare Atom results, and then I pull out a stat where like where Advent's got a 0.2 rating against like Team Liquid or something like that. I'm like, can you explain to me, how does someone even get a rating that low? Like.
Yeah, anyway. I think he's the lowest rated player of all time on CS:GO on LAN. I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't think in terms of like decent LANs. I swear someone told me that. So like, Advent's shit, right? But like at the same time, he's the shit, because he seems to like everyone loves him. But Hashtag is not that guy. Like, he is absolutely not that guy. He is mechanically as good as Advent, but in terms of leading a team, nowhere near as good. At least Advent wins, right? Just won Challenger League. The guy knows how to call a game, right? I give him his credit. He knows how to use his kind of pawns as puzzle pieces. Hashtag does not know how to do that, in my opinion. Especially now he's got two new guys coming in. I've got a 20-year-old of 9-10 who's inconsistent as they come. So he now needs to try and make him consistent, which in itself is fucking impossible. And then get this 15-year-old up to speed as well. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
I feel like they've it's the same thing as Tyloo. Like, they've gone away from what found them success in the first place, which is there was like a bunch of Mongolian teams that were all competitive with one another, and they did their favorite dance. They did the fucking Mongolian shuffle until they found a good lineup, and it's like, bro, just do it again. Like, there's a reason why you're running this like league in Mongolia, and you have the lands, and you have like the grassroots and everything. Pick players that are good from that you can like put your fucking house on, not like some guy who hasn't played officials, or at least on HLTV.
There's a lot of talent. I mean, like you said, Eruption. Obviously, I know a lot of those guys are ex in some way, ex kind of Mongols, but it gets to a point where you got to like suck up your pride a bit and be like,
fucking
okay,
politics or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the irony
purely
of it,
behind the scenes,
is that like when you say a lot of these players are like ex whatever, it's like, actually, all of these players are pretty much ex-teammates in some way, shape, or form. Because if we go back 5 years, like the fucking Mongolian shuffles that have gone on, we're talking Renewal, we're talking Tiger, we're talking Raft, we're talking fucking August. Was that a team? Something like all these teams during the COVID period, especially, it used to be like you'd play one tournament and then like, NCL would get traded for fucking Cabal, and then Dobu would get traded for fucking Annihilation or some bullshit. Like, I'm making shit up, but like there was just trades all over the place, and you'd just be like, what is going on? And then this Clutch roster came through, and W2C and all these teams, and then eventually they found themselves where we're at now. But this is again the Mongolian scene doing what the Mongolian scene does, which is just rotating through players.
But it's not, because they're only picking up like one player from another roster, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that. I mean, statistically, at least from him on Clutch, he was like one of the decent players, but he's AWPing as well, and they needed an AWPer. So maybe they just don't think that anyone from Eruption is worth giving a go as an AWPer. That's fair enough, but at least for the pickup of like Mizinho. Like, why aren't you picking up one of the players who's doing well on the other teams? I don't understand why you get some unknown
I can
15
only
It's got to be
assume.
politics.
I can
Has
only
to be.
assume. No, I mean, look, maybe, but
As
I
in,
can
like,
only assume
they don't
that
like each other, right?
when you say he's an unknown, like obviously he's unknown to us, but like in the Mongolian scene, how unknown is he if he's Bartak's brother and he's played on a team with Hastika and Mara? Like, yeah, I get it. We don't have that much data, but like maybe they have seen him fucking pugging and they think he's a superstar or some shit. Like there has to be something, right? And the thing I will say to cap off the Mongols discussion here is that I actually still think this team is going to a degree be reasonably competitive, right? I think you've still got those two fucking individuals, Blitz and Techno. I think they're pretty cracked. I think they're quite good. So if we're looking at the Asian scene as a whole, like I don't know that they're going to just completely fall off the radar. I don't think we're at that point where we're just like, this is a
it's
dead
going to be
team.
parity. That's what I'm saying.
They're
Like,
always going to be compared to what the Mongols team was able to achieve when they had score. That's going to be the big talking point. So, look, I think we've talked enough about that roster change. I don't know what more we can really add that people are going to be interested in hearing.
my prediction is they're going to shit the bed until CS2, and then we get the Mongolian super team.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I like it.
Maybe that's all that matters because, hey, there's no more majors in CSGO. Look, let's talk Challenger Rumble. Challenger Rumble? I don't know why I've called it Challenger Rumble. ESL Challenger. What's Challenger Rumble? Where is that from? I think that's from PUBG.
I don't know, bro.
Anyway,
Probably
I cast
doing
too many
some,
different
like,
fucking esports. Yeah.
Fortnite event, fucking
ESL Challenger. Neo, this is your domain now. I don't know that there's too much really to touch on here. I just wanted to sort of mention the fact that Rare Atom did beat Linvision. They made that reverse sweep happen, and they qualified to ESL Pro League Season 18, which means, as you've already said, not only is Linvision going to be at Season 18, Rare Atom will also be there. I think Rare Atom played at the last ESL Pro League, if I'm remembering rightly. They did, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And on top of that, also two Oceanic teams. So two ANZ teams, the winner of ANZ Champs, and there's an Oceanic qualifier as well. So we have 4 representatives from Asia as a greater region. But is there anything really to touch on when it comes to ESL Challenger? Like, is there much, or is it just business as usual?
I mean, yeah, I guess ever so slightly. I mean, I'm glad that we kind of do get to see Rare Atom on LAN. I mean, last year, about a year and a couple of months ago, I did a ESL Pro League conference, and it was meant to be Rare Atom who played it. This is back in the old system where it was kind of you would qualify for the national champions. Even Challenger League went into conference, and then you go through conference towards Pro League. Now they go directly to Pro League, which I think is a lot better, especially for kind of the Asia division where they're kind of so secluded in a way, right? That they force them to go in towards a conference is not always the easiest. I remember, doing conference, Rare Atom couldn't make it, and we were kind of forced to watch like a really shit Tyloo play, and this was like Bentet Tyloo, and I still remember I was on the desk for that, and it was them versus Illuminar, and that overpass, maybe one of the worst games of Counter-Strike I've ever seen in my life from Tyloo. So I'm glad we actually get to see Rare Atom play. Oh, I'm hoping we get to see them play. I know they've always had these problems with visas. It seems to be always the issue with them. So I'm hoping and praying. We've got so long. I think like Pro League's in like late August, I think, or something like that. So like we've got a long time until Pro League. So I'm hoping they get visas sorted.
Is it in Malta
no
again?
issues. Yeah, it's in Malta. It's gonna be in Malta now for the next like 2-3 years.
It should be fine because they've already been.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine why it would be an issue again. Hopefully.
Exactly. It's it's gonna be Malta for the next like 2 years. They got like a partnership now, like Esports Malta and ESL, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so first of all, I think actually there's a lot to like. I'm actually kind of worried about Linvision. I think Linvision have been a little bit concerning for my books for like a while now. Like I know ESL Challenger Melbourne, they got knocked out in the open quals. Like Linvision got I think they lost. I can't remember who it was. I think it was to Clutch, I think, in the open quals. They didn't even make it to the closed qualifiers. And I did the closed qualifiers. And I remember it was like it was the standard crop. It was, Mongols, Rare Atom, Eruption, and then it was like, it was Renewal, it was Team Renewal. And I was like, how the fuck are Renewal here? And I was because they beat Linvision, I think, in the open quals. And I was like, okay, that's already worrying. Then you get towards the season, and Linvision looked good in playoffs. I think that for the most part they were pretty much flawless. But then, in that final, take map number 1, they take Nuke off Rare Atom. You're thinking, okay, sick. That's Rare Atom's arguably their best map. And they take it off them as well. In the upper bracket final, very hilarious. It was a 2-0 towards Linvision. So I kind of thought it would be a bit of a repeat. Just to mention that very quickly, because I always think it's kind of fun. I don't know if you guys caught that game, but So it was 12-3 that Reratum took the first half on I think it was on Nuke, I'm pretty sure. And then they go on towards T side, and no, other way around. Limvision put a 12-3 half up, sorry. And they're thinking, okay, cool, sick. They'll just see this off nice and easy. Take map number 1, then go into their map pick, and it's fine. And then they put up the worst T side I've ever seen. Like, no joke. It was 15 rounds in a row from Reratum. And I remember casting at the time, and it got to a point where it was like, this point, it was like, 12 or 13 rounds in a row that Reratum had got. And I like, normally I'm pretty nice on cast, but I was like, oh my God, like this is the worst fucking T-side Counter-Strike I've ever seen in my life. Like it was horrific from Limvision. So I'm actually very concerned about Limvision going forward because this team looks actually very shaky. Like the reverse sweep in the finals, also I think a prime example. They take map number 1 of Nuke, and it was it was fine. They close out Nuke. I think Nuke is a good, not as good as a map as Reratum think it is for them. I think they love going in towards Nuke, but it's actually very uncomfortable. Their T side's all over the shop. But the rest of their pool's actually fine. But yeah, then they get reverse sweeps, and I think that's for me actually, I'm very worried. I think Limvision might go to Pro League if things continue the way they are now and get fucking dominated. They look really, really rough. You got a few individuals that are just not showing up, but the important ones, Wes Mellon, he's a pack player and he's just not showing up at all. Amelia again, not doing a lot. It kind of always comes down for me to Starry, and I know a lot of Asian teams are very reliant on certain individuals. Reratum is super reliant on Jamyang and Mercury. They don't show up, they are fucked, right? But they are so reliant on one person. Starry doesn't show up, this Limvision team is all over the shop for my eyes. So I'm actually kind of concerned about them going forward. I think on international Counter-Strike, they're going to realize, or a lot of these big EU teams are going to realize there's like some clear gaps on this team. And they're just going to punish individuals. They're going to punish Westman. They're going to punish Amelia. Zaka as well is very shaky and very easily kind of gets in his own head. And you can see him going these horrible ruts. So he's not getting a kill for like 6-7 rounds. But yeah, for me, Reratum, I think they've got a good shot. I think they're actually a very decent team. Like we've already mentioned, Advent's a little bit, here, there. But the rest of the team's actually very decent. Mercury and Jam. I think Mercury is mechanically the best player in Asia. I don't think there's anyone better at the moment. I'll die on that hill. I think he is so talented. There's like 2-3 seasons of Challenge League in a row where this guy is just untouchable. Like nobody can compete with him in terms of mechanically. But I think they'll be fine. But yeah, Limvision really worry me. I've got to say, I'm actually very concerned about them going in towards European Counter-Strike because they do not look good. It's probably the only way I can put it. I know they made the grand finals, I know the upper bracket and all the rest, but I feel like on paper and in the server, it tells a completely different story.
Often how it is. I think it's weird though. Like obviously, it's been a long time since we actually saw Limvision playing internationally. So
yeah,
well,
it's like
they've won 3 seasons of Challenger League in a row, but like they don't win that one. They won the upper bracket and they got the 1 map advantage. And then they got hit with a classic Advent counter strat. It's like they used everything in the upper bracket. They got absolutely fucked in the grand final, it looks like. I mean, I didn't watch the game, but I've seen Advent do this shit like a million times. It's like once you beat Rout and once they actually, figure you out a little bit. I don't really have too much to say. I wouldn't say I'm super optimistic about Rare Adam, although I'm just going to throw something out there. This would be my wet dream at the moment. DANK1NG minus Kaze plus DANK1NG. Send it. Let's go.
Yeah. Do you know what? Actually, Kaze was.
Kaze hasn't been good for ages.
He was rough.
Bro.
No, he was.
I love Kaze. Don't get me wrong. And we've casted a million Kaze games where he's been good back in the day, but it's been a long time, bro. I'm
a fan. I'm actually a fan. He was rough all playoffs. He was bad, like actually bad.
He's been rough for ages, man. If you look at his individual form, he hasn't been what he was for a long time.
I just wonder if that will ever happen though, because it's not because
Tyloo will never let him go.
Tyloo will never let him go. B, they probably would never let him go, especially to Rare Adam, who's like their direct competitor as far as China is concerned. And does Rare Adam even want Tyloo players? Because there's never in the last 5 years, there has not ever been any crossover between those two teams. Like the cores of the teams have never touched, and there's never even been an individual that's gone. Like even in a world where let's say Jamyang came into Rare Adam and played for 6 months, and then Tyloo poached him. There's never even been that situation. So I'd actually be very surprised if Tyloo would let DANK1NG go.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that team could actually do damage internationally.
Yeah.
Also, I think they have a weak AWPer. They are strong in every other position. Obviously, Advent support, but it doesn't matter. He is though. He is.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if Advent.
You know what?
Like Advent's a smart enough guy to know he is a bot. You could tell by the way he plays. He literally runs in first half the time.
I actually think we need to do a geographically challenged challenge, and the challenge is don't shit talk Advent and call him a bot for one episode, even when we're not talking about Rare Adam. Like we don't even have Rare Adam on the topic list. Basically, I mean they're in ESL Challenger final.
Just
okay, so,
include it, like,
but it's like
you gotta map out the next like however many episodes.
Can we just go one episode without shitting on this guy? Like poor fucking guy.
He shits on himself. His performances are so bad.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't speak English because man, if he would watch this show, like it would.
Yeah, but we love him though. That's
I do, but like you know. You called him
and
he
scouted some of the best players out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Like for however many times. Like he's picked up 3 players who have all fucked. Like in Asia and even internationally to some extent. And then Tyloo are like picking up Aristo. And it's like, no, bro, you're not Advent. Like you don't understand.
Every time I see him at an event, you know, like he's sitting on the stage and like I'll walk past, I'm like, fuck, does this guy know what we say about him on Geographically Challenged? Like, is he just gonna jump off the stage and bash me or something? Like,
bro, he knows. Like he doesn't need to. You know, he knows. He's a smart enough guy. He knows he's bad. Yeah, to know he's bad. You could tell by the way he plays. Like he plays like that intentionally.
Right.
Yeah, he does like. He's very much a kind of he's cannon fodder, like he dies for the team kind of thing. So like he knows what he's doing, right? But no, like at the same time, I have way more prospects for Rare Atom going forward than Lim Vision right now. Even though the last few seasons have been very good for Lim Vision, and also the final was kind of weird. We got into the final, and we're like, oh well, this kind of doesn't matter because both of these 2 teams are qualified anyway. Rare Atom just making it to the final meant that they could get a Pro League spot.
Yeah.
Which actually, it was very close in where New Happy made it as well. I have to say, those guys, they fucked. Like, all through the lower bracket, they were doing really decent. I generally thought New Happy actually might have pulled something off there because they were playing some good Counter-Strike. Like I said, like that combo of Spine for me and then Tiger, they were very, like a dynamic duo, very solid. I think there may be, like, just 2 guys to keep an eye out. 2-2 as well. Was like one of the best. He had like you remember like old twists on Liquid, him in Pit on Inferno when he was like that was his position. That's what 2-2 was doing. He was unstoppable. I remember they like whoever they were playing against was like trying to go to the A site and they could never get past him. He's getting like 2-3 kills every round. This guy's a god. Like so, there's talent, right? But yeah, I think with DANK1NG, just to touch on that, he's also got his own interpersonal problems. Let's call it like you know. Do Rare Atom really want to touch that? He comes with a massive, just like name tag of risk. Is what I want to call it, right? You know,
yeah, I've heard the same.
Do you want to touch that? I don't think you do. He's a great player, but apparently he's a fucking prick, right? So let's not beat around the bush.
He's like the polar opposite of Kaze. Like
basically.
Do you know what?
But he fucks in the server.
I don't know if I should tell this story or not, but do you remember? Do you remember what I showed you from the Mongolian airport, Pilly? With DANK1NG?
I remember something, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't know if I should tell this story, but fuck it, whatever. I was walking around the Mongolian Ulaanbaatar airport, which is like the world's smallest fucking airport. Think about your like domestic airport vibes. This is an international airport, but basically it's domestic airport vibes. It's not very big. And I walk past Tyloo, and I'm like, oh, there's Tyloo. They're going home as well. So I like say hi to Jack and whatever, and then I keep walking on. I walk around the corner, DANK1NG is taking a photo of a disabled toilet photo, and I don't know why. But that's what he was doing. And he saw me like looking at him, and I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Oh my god.
But
unless it's just like not did not have like disabled toilet badges, I guess.
Yeah, maybe not.
Like, China,
and the thing is, like, it was definitely him because at that event he had bright red hair. So like there's no
I'm mistaking him, kind of thing. I mean, he's always pretty flashy anyway. Like, where it was bleach blonde and like with the vibey jackets and shit. So like, he stands out. He knows, like, you know, love him or hate him, that's DANK1NG, right? So,
all right, let's move on. Let's move on from the fucking Chinese Counter-Strike and bashing Advent and whatever the fuck. Let's talk Grayhound at Dallas and maybe at the major as well. I mean, I guess just the whole topic. And by the way, can I just say, finally, your cameras have cleared up. So if you want to say anything inflammatory, so that I can clip it and use it as the thing, this is the segment. Sorry in advance, Grayhound.
Advent's
a good player.
That is controversial. All right. Grayhound at Dallas and Grayhound at the Major and Grayhound as they currently stand. I think in particular, I just want to talk about how they played at Dallas and how things went there. 2-16 against Cloud9 on Ancient. Obviously not a great look considering Ancient is, within the map pool for Grayhound as well. It's definitely a map that they've been going to fairly regularly. And then they dropped 0-2 to Liquid, which was a much better performance, we'll say. Double OT and triple OT on Inferno and Mirage respectively, but they did lose 2-0. The only caveat I'll say there is obviously there's like that whole Nitro retirement discussion around that matchup as well. So it's kind of like, well, maybe Liquid doesn't put everything into this event. Like you can see the way that things looked at the Major as well, because they played Liquid at the Major, and like these results are like, all pretty close, but like at a certain point, it's still a loss. So Grayhound gets knocked out 0-2, and what is there to say? Like, is there anything new? I think probably not really. Like we've had this discussion before after events. I was sort of saying I thought that they were looking pretty good going into the RMR in particular, and I would probably still stand by that. I think domestically and even into Asia, they do look like they're going to be the team that, especially with these changes to Mongols and blah, 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 will probably continue to be the representatives from the region. But internationally speaking, nothing really has changed. So Pilski, I feel like you wanted to say something, because I've got a question that I want to lead to Neo after that. So I think that's what I
mean, I'll just say, I don't know why, but Grayhound, every time they play a CIS team in a BO1, and Aussie teams in general, every time they play a CIS team in the first round of an event, they get absolutely fucking fisted every time without fail. I swear the CIS teams just they just run at you, and it's one of those play styles that it doesn't even matter if it's a team of the quality of C9, or if it's just one of the teams even the teams back in the day, Entropic would just fuck them. Even if you consider those teams at similar levels, they would fuck them. So it's I don't know, that kind of seems to be their kryptonite. And then the Liquid one, I mean, that was pain, right? That was a classic AU choke, from winning position. And being a Grayhound fan is very painful. But we'll see if they can keep improving. It just feels like there's a lot of intangible things. I think the thing I was happiest with was probably Vexite. It just seems to keep getting better and better all the time.
Yeah, good Twitter banter game as well in that matchup against Thorin. I thought that was pretty good.
I think he really weaponized the teenagers. He really weaponized the teenagers.
He weaponized the Zoomers. And that's what you need to do these days, mate. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, he really did. I don't know if it was good banter, but I
thought it was
did numbers.
I thought it was pretty good. I'll cop it on the chin. If I was Thorin in that little engagement, I thought it was good from Vexite. Yeah. Okay, but look, since you're kind of the odd man out here, Neo, and you're, not in the ANZ scene and whatever, I kind of want to get your thoughts, because obviously when Pilly and I are doing these shows, and even to an extent with Bleh, it's a bit of an echo chamber. We've talked about this already. So what's your thoughts on Grayhound? Do you think they need a change, or are you... See, the thing is, with Grayhound, I feel like if they are happy where they are, then fucking power to you, If that's the best you want to be as a team, if you want to just be the best ANZ team, the best Asia team, hang out with your mates, fucking make hundreds of thousands of dollars qualifying for the Major because you're getting stickers. Is that such a bad thing? If that's your life, no, you're not complaining. But do they want to be a internationally competitive team? I don't know. I would say, of course everyone wants to, but are you mentally checked out at that point now where you're okay, well, we're just fucking making money. We're the best in our region. That's good enough for us. So is that a concern? Are you concerned about, the fact that they haven't made roster changes? We talk about the Mongols making 6 roster changes in 12 months. Grayhound have made 1, and that was right at the start of that 12 months, which was when Vexite got brought into the roster. So perhaps, that was August last year they brought Vexite in. So are we at that point now where we start talking about, does Grayhound need a roster change again? Because I feel like, it's been a while.
Yeah, from an outside perspective, obviously I don't know the ins and outs of the scene the way you boys do, but if there was going to be a change, the only guy I can see being changed is Sicko. I think he just at times just doesn't really show up. Obviously stats don't lie there, but when you kind of look at the eye test as well, he does look a little bit shaky. But then again, I don't really know in terms of what he brings to the team outside of that, right? Obviously he is a very experienced head. And there's the other question of who are they bringing, right? Do they have any kind of an anchoring player? He obviously plays, pardon me, kind of the more shitter positions, right? So he is obviously going to get, you know, stat-wise, always going to take a massive hit. But I actually don't think making a change to the players is fundamentally the issue. I think they need a coach, like, desperately. And I don't think it's, I don't even think it's for the case of, for like strat-wise. I think, you know, strats, they're fine. They've got, you know, Inge does a very good job. And I think even Liaz, in terms of experience, is really good in helping this team. They just need someone at times to just, you know, someone who can boost the morale a bit. You know, we've had coaches in the past who are kind of there purely just for, you know, taking a breather or boosting morale more than kind of being strategically or strat-wise very kind of heavy. I think they need a coach. I think obviously when they lost Kingfisher, or when they got rid of Kingfisher, and he's now you know, still within the scene, but obviously not with them. I think it happened at Melbourne, right? I think this is a prime example. In that game against B&E, I thought they should have took that game.
Yeah, of course. We all did.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Map the one didn't go great, but the rest of it, I honestly thought they should have taken it. And the thing that let them down is they don't call pauses, or when they do, there's nothing that's happening about it, because it's, you know, obviously the pauses get called. Let's say they're on, you know, a bad run of form where like they've lost the last, like, you know, 5-6 rounds, momentum's not in their favor. That's where you desperately need a coach to come in and like just to bring up the morale a little bit. I think for me, the first thing, if they're going to do anything, would be to bring a coach in. I think, granted, I don't know how many coaches there are kicking about in the Oz scene that isn't Kingfisher, or any that are like
zero,
even remotely worthwhile. Zero. Okay, there we go. So already immediately a problem. Then you look at, they have to bring in a guy who's not, you know, I actually saw someone float this on Twitter, so I'm not going to claim it as my own, but I don't mind the call at all. You know, someone like a Kassad, right? Obviously, very, very good in terms of, like, he's an unbelievably smart guy, right? But at the same time, if things are going wrong, like, he'll just say it. Like, he'll just say it as it is. And I think at times, like, for me, I feel like this team needs someone like that. Like, you're just playing shit. Like, stop over peaking, stop over facing, just stop being fucking shit. Like, they need someone just to, like, you know, keep them in bay, because they should have won that game against B&E. They should have been in the final against Movistar. Movistar have been shit for ages, so that was actually a prime opportunity for them to basically, like, you know, win out Melbourne on home turf, which would have been sick. So yeah, I think if they're gonna make any changes, for me, the first change would be a coach. I think they need a coach. If there's no Oz coaches aside from obviously Kingfisher, who they're not going to bring back, I'm assuming, then you got to look elsewhere in my eyes. And I think you got to look. I'm assuming EU probably is the next best option. Then there's plenty of coaches EU they could go for.
Well, I mean,
I feel like I want to see what would happen in an alternate reality where, like, we put Malta in for Sicko, and then we put like PZ in for Alistair. Like, I honestly would want to see what that team would do, honestly. And then obviously
Malta better though.
as well.
I feel like he at the same time he just kind of feels like a Sicko clone, but worse.
Are you a Malta hater? I'm a Malta stan. Just by the way.
Yeah. I really, but from what I've seen, I mean, when was the last time I probably last time I saw him was probably conference. I think Malta completely shit the bed online. So I guess it was like, right, like,
I'll just clip that.
Oh, I guess it was, yeah.
It
was last Melbourne. Last Melbourne, I think,
Challenger
right?
Melbourne, yeah.
Can we just clip this one little part? I can't believe you would say that, Neo. That's fucked up.
Man, you're such a dick. We love it. Nah. I mean, look, I just think Malta as a player and the roles that he has played, you know, I can see why you would, like, make that change, if that makes sense. Like, he seems like that kind of player that can just fill those roles and do a good job.
I feel like domestically his form has been good, and then even like when he played at the RMR, he looked. I didn't watch the games too closely, but didn't he actually look pretty good on Vertex at the RMR? Or I know he didn't play one of the series because he was sick.
Yeah, I can't really remember, but yeah, I just remember him not playing the game against Twisted Minds, and basically, like, we were like, all right, well, Vertex is fine.
Isn't he also pushing like 70 years old? Like, at this point, like,
he's 27, which is the same.
Really? Well, I thought he was like mid-30s. Oh my god,
he's been around a while. Yeah, he really was like quite young when he first started playing.
He also has a baby face, so like you don't know if he's like 21 or if he's like 35. He'll look the same.
I genuinely thought he was mid-30s. Oh my god. Okay, well, fair enough. That's actually not that old then.
No, he played. He didn't play that good at the RMR. I'm telling lies. I'm telling lies. All right, there goes that experiment, boys. But at least PZ, save PZ. Someone save PZ.
PZ seems good from like an EU player. I watched I remember what it was. It was one of the Oz championships, and I remember watching PZ play, and he was pretty decent. I mean, I've seen very limited experience of him, but I don't know where he would fit in that team. I think if they're going to make any change from the outside, the one I can see is Sicko, and maybe bring in a little bit more of an active anchor.
I mean, I love Ali, but he's like he's very up and down, and he's just like got a very inconsistent play style, which is fine. Like, you know, when he's popping off, you're going to win. But I'd be interested to know, just with the quality of the core that they already have, what would happen if you put a more consistent player who plays a more conventional kind of AWPing style in there. But, you know, we'll never know, because like Jordan said, the way that the system works, and especially playing for a minor region, you're incentivized to not make changes and just try to stay on top for as long as possible and keep re-qualifying for everything. There's no incentive to take risks until someone starts beating you, and then you poach their best player.
Well, this is the
printing money.
I mean,
why do they need to make a change?
Exactly, but I mean, it's not even that. I think the way that I framed it was maybe not the way that I necessarily wanted to bring it. It's like, you know, are they phoning it in? Blah blah blah. That's what it sounds like. But the thing I take an issue with is, whenever I see like people on Reddit or whatever talking about Grayhound, it's like, oh well, they should just move to North America or Europe. They should just do this, that. It's like, well, I mean, are you really gonna fucking do that? Like, are you gonna make that decision and say, yeah, I'm gonna move from AU, where I literally qualify for anything and everything. Hands down, I am easily the best team in ANZ, pretty much easily the best team in Asia at this point as well. So I qualify for 2 majors a year, the whole discussion around, you know, people are throwing around numbers like $100,000 plus for a major qualification because of the stickers. If that is the case, you're throwing away 200K plus a year per player, plus whatever prize money you're winning from playing all these tournaments, plus whatever you're doing in, you know, ANZ, which is not a lot, admittedly, but hey, fucking 200 grand a year doesn't sound too bad to me right now. Like, are you really going to throw that away to go and play in Europe? Let's be real, the choice is go to Europe. You're not playing in North America at this point. Are you really going to go to Europe, get shit on by tier 2 European teams without an org, without a coach, with, you know, what exactly? It's going to be Extremum, Winterfox. You're going to be fucking over there. You're going to be hating your life. You're not going to be home. You know, whatever. I just don't think that is a viable choice. So
there's no chance. They're losing all the money, all the qualification. They get guaranteed Pro League every year. They get guaranteed every major, every LAN that comes through. That qualifier wise, they are literally guaranteed to play every single one.
Even things like Challenger Melbourne, right? You're going to play that. If that comes back every year, you're guaranteed to get the hero invite slot for that, because you're the #1 ANZ team. Any other decent tournament in ANZ or in Asia, you're pretty likely to get a slot in. So I just don't think that is like viable at all.
I don't think they do well if they went to America, purely because right now Pain are there. Pain, no offense to the U boys, but Pain are leagues above Grayhound in my eyes. I think Skulls and Zevi are like, they are the future. Those two are absolute gods. Like, they realistically, they were very unfortunate not to go to get the guaranteed legend spot over Furia. They obviously went 3-0 as well, then played that seeding game in the NA RMR. But I think right now, I'd even make arguments that Pain are starting to look better than Furia. So, but they play out of America. They live in Dallas, I think everyone's saying. So even if Grayhound went to NA, I don't think they can topple Pain right now. I think Pain are actually a better team. They've got, you know, that they've got this consistency about them, which for me makes them look very, very scary. So yeah, I think it would be, you know, not worthwhile. It obviously worked for the South African boys going over, you know, now with kind of complexity and whatnot. But I think it's a risk, and it's not worthwhile, right? Because they're just not going to get any guaranteed invites, guaranteed income. That America's RMR is a shit show as well. Limited spots coming through, obviously, and limited spots in Asia as well. But
yeah, but they're much
a lot
easier
of teams
to qualify.
fighting. Exactly, a lot of teams fighting for not a lot of spots in America. You've got kind of likes of even, you know, you got what, Liquid, Furia, Complexity, whatever Brazilian mix, or Pain as well, I guess another one. And then you've got what, one more spot essentially, and that's got to go towards one team, including the likes of, if it is Grayhound, Fluxo, MIBR, EG, if they manage to like fix their shit. But like, you know what I mean? Like, there is so many teams vying. All the other kind of 4 or 5, like well, I think it's 5 spots, right? So the other 4 are like guaranteed. And then you got Grayhound trying to fight against big South American teams with a lot of money and a lot of talent to pull from. But you got Grayhound and no coach going over. Yeah, so I think they wouldn't change a thing, right? They're enjoying life. I think for the most part, they get to live in their home country, win everything, compete in everything, get 6-figure sums every major. Because, you know, Ensis, obviously they released their finances and they were saying they're making millions from stickers as an org. So the players, the trickle down, obviously, having had conversations as well with players and stuff, it's about, 6 figures and some if you get to like Legends Capsule and Champions Capsule even more, right? So, however far you go, get more money, essentially.
And it's USD, right, as well. So it's like, conversion rate is actually pretty good to AUD at this point.
Yeah. So it's just, that they're getting money to retire on yearly kind of thing. So there's no chance they give that up. I don't think the only thing they could do is bring in a coach. There's no Oz coaches. I don't think they can do anything really.
The only person is Azza, but I don't even think he's like, it's not even, it's like, people will throw out, why don't you just get Azza as a coach? It's like, A, does he want to coach? B, is he even...
Lives in Denmark.
Exactly. Is he even in ANZ? So I just don't think that's
He lives in Copenhagen, so I don't think he'd even want to come home. He's got like a fiance or something, I think.
It's so shit that there's not anyone who could coach anymore because, like, once upon a time there was so many players who played like
who's paying the coach?
Well, no, I know why it's happened, but like
do the B&E strat,
right? But even
on
Grayhound, I'm saying, like who,
especially at the start of CS:GO, like there was so many veteran players who gave that trickle down effect and taught people how to play Counter-Strike and shit. Like, and I feel like there's so many people who have like international experience from Australia, but they're just not involved in the game anymore because it's just not worth it to be.
Yeah, but I think the difficulty as well for Grayhound, and we're probably going deeper into this conversation than I wanted to, but I think the difficulty for Grayhound in that respect as well is if you're going to pick up a coach and have them be from ANZ, it needs to be a player that they can actually get value from. And I don't, like, the only players that you can get value from is Grayhound. Like, they are the best players in ANZ currently. They are the most up to date with the meta. They're the ones that know how to play the game. So, like, yeah, again, outside of basically Azza, there isn't anyone that's already that has like a higher understanding of the game than the Grayhound players, or has a better profile, or like there's no player, I think, if I was in their position, that I would respect to say you can coach me, because I'm the best and I've been the best for 3 to 5 years, depending on which of the players in the team you are. So
I think they need to go EU. I think they have to, because right now, even from Melbourne, and I caught a bit of the Asia stuff. Obviously, when I was working the EU RMR, we would occasionally, like, in the evening, we'd come back and have a little watch of the Asia stuff, because, like, we would finish and you guys would start, essentially. But the only problem for me is that right now, Grayhound play the most bog standard, milquetoast, like, basic meta. And it's very, very readable. Like, from just working the desk at Melbourne, you can see it. And teams read them very comfortably. This is a Liquid team who are kind of falling apart right now, and obviously they're in a really rough space. They got an Orpo who's mid, and then they got no IGL basically because he's Nitro. He's completely useless to that team. He's not even IGLing anymore. So it's like, what is his purpose in that team? So they got a Liquid team that should be very beatable, and they can't beat them, right? I think the big thing is they're very easy to read. Like their defaults are very standard. Like once you spot a bit of util, you can know exactly what they're pulling off. Like 30 seconds into a round. So I think for me, they just need someone to shake it up a little bit if they're going to do anything. And then do the B&E strategy, right? Where obviously, they've got no org, but they pay Devil Walk in percentage of winnings, essentially. That's the only thing they could do. And they could, coax someone over. But then, even then, what coach is going to do that? That's notable, because if you're going to go somewhere, you want to go with guaranteed income. So,
Yep. And I mean, I think the difficulty is as well, like, okay, if we're talking about B&E, it's like, okay, you've got Devil Walk. Like, this guy's a fucking legend of the game.
Exactly.
How easy is it going to be to find someone of that caliber to coach Grayhound? I don't know.
Yeah.
You need a special kind of person
to move to Oz.
Who either wants to move to Oz or wants to have this as like a project where they like really believe in Grayhound and the players and stuff like that. Whatever. Anyway, I don't think that they necessarily need a change per se, like, because I don't know that there's like any direct upgrade that they're going to be able to get at this point in time. But it just feels like, and I think the way that I wanted to actually frame this was like, maybe people just need to check their expectations a little bit when it comes to Grayhound, because like, yeah, we would all like to see an ANZ team be the top 8 team in the major or something like that. But like, the reality is, with all the hurdles that they have to get through, it's just not feasible really to expect that. So maybe if you want to, see an ANZ player go that far, you have to sort of expect it to be someone like JKS or Dexter, or if one of these Grayhound players get poached. I just don't know if an ANZ core that's living in ANZ can reliably hit that mark. And it's not
Just
like
to
a
say-
slight on those players.
You kind of mentioned it, but I don't think Dexter would be a bad thing. I personally
Yeah, but he's still
don't
playing, obviously.
Yeah, but I don't think he's long lived for Miles, in my personal opinion. I know that obviously this feels like I'm taking a shot at you boys, and slightly is, but I think he is the problem at Miles, personally.
Sure.
Because
fine.
I don't think he knows how to use AWPers. And I think there's now 2 instances. Encore didn't know how to use them, played terribly, leaves, instantly becomes one of the best AWPers in tier 2. Torzi, prior to Miles, was Miles NXT, best AWPer in We Play Academy League, going toe-to-toe with Manesi. Budapest 5 was unstoppable in tier 3, basically. Like, no one could touch him. Comes to Miles and he's just like, no offense to Torzi, I'm probably not watching, but he's shit, right? Like, he is actually just bad at the moment. But I don't think it's his problem. I think Dexter can't use them properly. So Dexter was to move on from Miles, which I think is a possibility. I think, if I'm Miles, I'm getting on my hands and knees and begging for Shuhei to come back. Then that's someone who you could look towards because he's very up to date with the meta, very kind of in the know. And if he was to go from Miles, I don't know where else he would go. But at the same time, Miles are qualifying to playoffs. So are they going to make any changes? But the only player that I could think that is Oz-based who would do it in late down the line, maybe like a couple of years' time, would be Dexter.
Yeah. That's my mentality as well, is that it would have to be someone who's elevated above the Grayhound roster. And you don't get that in ANZ. It would have to be someone that has been exported. And that's basically Azza or Dexter or JKS. But, what are the chances? So, anyway, I think we'll see. I mean, obviously, we'll still support Grayhound and hope that they do well. But just keep the expectations in check. And, hey, if something happens, fuck yeah. That's all I'll say. So, last topic of the day, a bit of a brief one. Encore's dead. Haven't really heard much of a discussion around this. Haven't really seen anything on the Twitter. They just sort of stopped existing, Pilski. And, now Savage is on Eliminators, which is like whatever, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Maybe a bit of an upgrade for Eliminators, I suppose. I think Savage is all right. But what's happened to the rest of the players? Don't know. Are they going to play in India? I mean, that is one of my assumptions. Like, my assumption is anyone who I'm kind of like, oh, what happened to that player? Where are they? It's like, maybe they're going to line themselves up for a spot in this fucking Indian league that's popped up.
Yeah, I mean, I as for Savage to Eliminators, don't really care that much. I think Savage was like decent for a while, but like I think he's kind of. I don't feel like I've really been excited by his play for a while. I think he's a decent player, but I think there was a period where he had a pretty good trajectory, and I was thinking he's going to be like the next big thing. Now I think he's just, I don't think he necessarily plays like a star player role or anything, to be fair, but I think he's just decent, to be honest. And I don't think I'm seeing some of those flashy clutches that we were seeing from him before. So I don't think I'm super excited on the Savage train right now. Happy that Rooster has their call back together, and I think that could put them right up the top of Australia again. And once again, they've been one of the only cores for the longest time that's managed to give Grayhound trouble. So like that could be a possibility again, to be honest. So yeah, I'm interested to see if that's going to be a thing once we start to see those two teams go head to head again.
Yep. And that's pretty much that. Nothing really more to say, unless you've got something you want to mention there, Neo, but I'm sure you don't even have
I mean, the only thing I can really talk about is I actually, last time I saw him was obviously not the Melbourne, just gone the one before it, but I quite like Hearts as a player. Obviously I know kind of he's not top dog level, he's not Greyhound level kind of thing, but I think as a player I thought he was actually mechanically fairly decent. So I hope he finds, I don't know where, if there's any rumors about where he's going and whatnot.
No idea.
But I think he's actually a decent pickup.
This is the thing, is like my assumption, if you're a player of Hearts' caliber, it's like, hey, why not just fucking go play in India and see what happens? Like,
yeah, so what is this Indian league? I've heard like rumors about it.
200. Sorry, what is it? 2 million USD? I can't remember what the figure was, but it was some ridiculous figure.
Yeah.
USD league in India that they're trying to franchise. I don't know what it is, but it's something. Basically, it was like, okay, there's like, they're just trying to make some sort of big CS league in India, and it's like a lot of, players that are potentially decent in Asia are kind of looking at that, I suppose, and going, well, hey, hopefully this happens, because like, outside of the announcement, there hasn't really been much information on it. But yeah, it's like quite a big prize pool. I can't remember what exactly it is.
Yeah, I saw like a dust to India, like the article about it. Like I read a brief scan, but I mean, it sounds interesting, especially because now there's more opportunities for a lot of these teams to go scrim against international opponents, right? I'm assuming some of the guys from China and whatnot will come over and play that as well. So it's like more opportunities for them to have that alongside just the ESL Challenger League and the qualifiers that they get.
245,000 USD league. It was
not bad.
20 million Indian rupee or something. That's where I got the million from. So $245,000 like league in Asia is unheard of, basically.
It's not bad, yeah.
Yeah, like that's an EU league or like a tier one almost league. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's my assumption is where a lot of these like players that are sort of homeless at the moment are going to end up. In some way, shape, or form, or at least attempt to. Like, I don't know what the situation is like, which teams are, who's building teams. Is it a franchise? Do you need to be in whatever? That's a discussion for a little bit later on down the track. But I think there's probably a lot of players that are looking at that and saying, yeah, I wouldn't mind just going to India and playing CS and potentially making a lot of money. So give it a crack. Yeah, but that pretty much wraps us up for the episode. Lots of interesting roster changes. I think it's more of an episode where we're like theory crafting or sort of seeing what we might expect to see in the future rather than like breaking down results. But it's always interesting to kind of get into that discussion. It has been a little while as well, so nice to record something. Thanks for coming on, Neo. I know it's early morning for you, waking up and jumping on.
Happy to, brother. 10:30 a.m. now. It's all right. It's not good. It resets my sleep schedule. I've been like kind of living on Aussie times for the last a few weeks. So yeah, resets the sleep schedule. So thanks for bringing me on. Happy to talk about Oz CS and the kind of Asian Counter-Strike and all the rest. So always a pleasure having worked ESL Challenger League Asia for the last like 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Back-to-back Melbournes now. I feel like honorary kind of Asian Counter-Strike enjoyer. So yeah, I appreciate coming on.
All right, we might get you on a little bit more if you keep working Asia. But Pilski, anything you want to say before we go?
Not really. Hire Elfishguy. He's a really nice guy and he's lovely to work with, mostly.
Thanks. That's very kind of you. Outside of that, yeah, like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. Buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy. If you want to see more, you can give me some money. That'd be great. But otherwise, thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next one.